Good morning. This is Ron Brown. I am recording this video on January 4th, 2021, the beginning of a new year. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I use HGS Investor, the software, and point out many of its features. Now, the program has changed so much over the years that many of the videos that I've done in the past are now dated, I guess is the only word for them. So I'm going to take you on a little different tour than I've done in the past and try to incorporate many of the features that are available in the software. Now, the files that I'm using are files that I've created over the years, and members of my insider club are or do have access to these files. The club is pretty inexpensive, and people resubscribe every year, or most people do, so it seems to be a worthwhile service that I'm going to continue. Anyway, the cost is $25 a month or $200 for a year, so essentially you get a 1/3 discount if you pay for the year. Now, if you don't want to join the club, that's fine, but you'll have to create these views filters and what we call combo rankings on your own, which is extremely time consuming, and you really need to know the logic of the program. So that's it for the sales pitch. No more. I'm going to talk about the program. Now, what I've done is I have brought the main menu here to the foreground, and under preferences, currently I have selected always on top. Now usually I deselect that because I don't want this menu floating around, but for these, my purposes here, at least for right now, I'm going to leave it up here. Also, I select use small toolbars. Now if you look down here at these toolbars, especially in the warehouse, this is very obvious. If I deselect that, notice these tools are much larger and it takes away screen space. So I suggest that you use the small toolbars and also don't have your menu on top because it also takes up space. But just for a few minutes, I'm going to leave it there. Now, the way this is set up, there are component parts. So we have charts. Here's a daily chart. Here's a weekly chart. This is what we call the warehouse view. And with this view, I'll click on this right here and open this up. You can see that on the view I have a filter attached and also a combo ranking. Now the filter eliminates stocks, the combo ranking ranks stocks, and this is an intraday combo. It's very simple, and I'm running Thinkorswim in the background to get intraday quotes, and you can see that I'm using intraday fields here. The last divided by the low, the range, the industry percentage price change one day is something that is not an intraday combo, but I'll show you how I utilize it. And intraday one day change, and then intraday volume divided by the 90-day moving average volume. So we're 30 minutes into the market day, and I'm going to show you next how I utilize the portion of that for the industry move. I just go into what we call the designer, and I locate the industries, and I select that, and all of the industries in HGSI are here, and I go under the Tools menu, and I select Rebuild User Smart Groups. That's one of the things I do, and I'll get to that next. I'm doing two things here at once. Now, to get back to these industry groups, I have to rebuild indexes in groups. Now, this is what is rebuilding the indexes or the groups. The first one I did was I rebuilt the user smart groups, and the reason I did that is because I want the data up to date. You can see that these groups are being rebuilt. This is not my fastest computer, but I am recording this on here because the images are much sharper for the resolution that I'm using. So I know my groups are up to date. I know my user smart groups are up to date. And what are the user smart groups? So this is a new feature just this year, and it's totally changed how HGSI can be used. Now in the past, we had these smart groups, which the bulk of them, Ian Woodward and I put together years ago. You can see that there are many of them, but there are many other contributors. Charles Kirkpatrick, Dave Seckler, David Glardy, Gil Morales, Jeffrey Scott, and a group called the Morpheus Trading Group. So these were fixed. They were not alterable. Now we have these smart groups which can be configured and altered any way I want to do it. Now these are all the user smart groups that I put together personally, and this is all part of the Insider Club. I'm going to select one of these groups. Notice that there are intraday and end of day versions. So the end of day are generally for prospecting at night or early in the morning before the markets are open. And then the intraday, these groups are driven by Thinkorswim in the background. So I'm just going to drop down here to, I think everybody knows what a momentum stock is. I'll open this up. These windows are resizable. And I'm going to select the third one down. This is, these are stocks that recently had a 52-week high, strong momentum stocks, and this is intraday. In other words, they are being updated every 5 minutes on my computer. And I'll click through to that. I'll click in this area here, go up to the top, and you can see that these columns are green over here. The intraday percentage price change, the range of the candle, and the volume compared to the 90-day moving average volume. And this belongs to the precious metal and mining group. So if I double click on that, move the designer out of the way, you can see that this stock is moving up nicely. This is a weekly chart on the left. It's always good to look at multiple time frames, and you can see that there has been support around the $3 area here. And on the daily chart, you can see that there are several colors on here, or icons, and these are volume price analysis icons for those of you who don't know what they are. So what they do, based upon price and volume, they give us an idea of what is happening with a stock, both in the daily and the weekly. So let's just go over here. This stock, this is around the $3 area right here. You can see that it sold off, but there is a magenta square here and a magenta square here, and then a magenta square here. The ones underneath are bullish, and this is bearish, and this only appeared because this closed off with its high. But if I click here, and then I look up here, this is a low volume test. In other words, the volume is lower than previous days, and it closes near the high of its range. Same thing happened here, and then we get a gap up, and then this is a no supply, a sign of strength. Here's another no supply. Tried to go, but then it fell back. There just wasn't volume to support the move. See how quiet the volume is there? And then as we get over here, there are two VPA flags at this point. So I'm going to click on this. High volume up bar closing on the high indicates strength. That is this rectangle. And then this is an effort to rise as buyers come in and it closes near the high. I'm going to put a crosshair on here. You can see volume increasing, volume increasing, volume increasing, as we had three efforts to rise in a row, and then it went from expansion into contraction for a few days. But it held in this area. This was a one-day shakeout. Then there's an inside day, and it started moving up again. It moved up a couple of black candles there. Let's just look at the volume. You can see on those two black candles, if you look down here, that the volume was very light as it was on this day. This is a holiday though. So there was no selling pressure, and then we have a green bar on this move up, another effort to rise. This is, I would classify this as a spinning top, really kind of non-directional. Heavy volume, but look at the range of the candle here. It closed in the upper, I'd say 66% of its daily range. So there were more buyers and sellers based upon the daily range. And then this morning, see this, the magenta color. This is the projected volume of this stock based upon what is happening right now. As you begin to use the program or continue to use it if you're already a subscriber, you will start paying more attention to these individual candles and support and resistance areas. And you'll just get more of a feel for it. Now this is the daily chart. How does that translate onto the weekly chart? Well, this is the beginning of the week or the beginning of the year right here. So this bar really is represented. It's the same bar right here, but as the week builds, this is going to change. Now this candle here represents the prior 5 days. It represents 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 days. It was a holiday, and that is this candle. Here was a strong move up, and if I put the crosshair on it, you can see that was supported by volume. So it all really comes down to demand and supply, and also what the group is doing. Now I mentioned, or I rebuilt those groups. To update them, let's just go to a chart. I'm going to go down to chart number 7. Why? Because it contains the group line also. And you can see, I'll make this full screen, this dotted line represents a group. And I went back, or I went in and I updated those groups, and notice that the group is moving up today along with the stock. So that is part of the combo ranking that I referred to, and it's this field right here. It's only 12.5% of the combo ranking today, but it factored into bringing this stock, Endeavor Silver Corporation, to the top of the list. Why? Because of these fields here and also the group movement. Before I leave here, I want to point out some other things. I'm primarily interested in price and volume right now, but if you're new to HGSI, here is a pane. It's a window pane up here which shows the fundamentals, and you can see the earnings and revenue growth for the past 8 quarters. There's also information over here about the group and the sectors and so on, the average volume, earnings due date, and so on. So there's a lot of information, and you can flip through these panels to get more information. Everything is really complete in this program. Now I'm going to, as I do other videos, I'm going to introduce you to the other things. I've incorporated what I call my Wyckoff indicators into this, and that Wyckoff is represented by VPA volume, spread, and close. And on Endeavor, for example, this is the data from last Friday. It had high volume, a wide spread, and closed in the middle. And that's this candle that I was talking about right here. High volume, wide spread, and closed in the middle. Let's just look at it. This one right here. Volume was higher than normal. You can see here the red bar. The spread was wide, but it closed in the middle. That's the Wyckoff information. Now I have a whole series of scans set up and based upon that. I'm going to end this video right now. I don't like long videos. I think people get lost in them. So I will break this into segments. Thank you for listening. And there is so much more to show you in videos that I'm going to do next.